Hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the motion as amended passed.
Members' motion with no legislative effect. Dr. Junius HO will move a motion on upholding the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. Members who wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. And I'll call upon Dr. Junius HO to speak and move the motion. Mr. HO, Dr. HO. President, I move a motion that this Council urges the SAR government to uphold the Constitution and the Basic Law and resolutely uphold the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong so as to promote the excellent traditional culture of the Chinese nation, as well as prevent and resist the impact of harmful culture. I'm very glad that we have the time to discuss this important issue. First, what is the Constitution about? According to the People's Republic of China Constitution, Article 49. Marriage, families, mothers, and children shall be protected by the state. Both husband and wife shall have the obligation to practice family planning. Parents shall have the obligation to raise and educate their minor children. Adult children shall have the obligation to support and assist their parents. Infringement of the freedom of marriage is prohibited. Mistreatment of senior citizens, women, and children is prohibited. I think the main point is on marriage, families, mothers, and children shall be protected by the state. Article 46 says that citizens of the PRC shall have the right and the obligation to receive education. The state shall foster the all-round moral, intellectual, and physical development of young adults, youths, and children. There is the civil code of the PRC. It does not directly apply to Hong Kong, but we can draw reference from it. Under Article 104.1, it says that marriage and family are protected by the state. Marriage system based on freedom of marriage, monogamy, and equality between men and women is implemented. The emphasis on equality between men and women is heterosexual. Now let's turn to national security law of the PRC, which is the overarching legislation, Article 23. The state shall adhere to developing an advanced socialist culture, inherit and carry forward the fine traditional culture of the Chinese nation, cultivate and practice the core values of socialism, prevent and resist the impact of harmful culture, maintain its ideological domination, and enhance the overall cultural strength and competitiveness. In Hong Kong, we practice the capitalist system, but there is no literature that says a capitalist system does not agree that in the face of harmful culture, preventative measures should be put in place, whether it's a socialist system or a capitalist system. The idea itself is the same. In our country, the holistic view of national security on pages 61 to 63, it says that ideology is about priority, about the path, about national security. History and reality shows that disrupting a society, subverting a state starts with ideological ideas. So in the exercise of our rights under the Basic Law, what should be our stance? In the CFA, the Court of Final Appeal, we see a lot of cases advocating equal rights, diversity, people use these to package ideas that undermine our traditional culture. When we fight for rights and freedom, we need to look at the big picture. What direction do we expect our society to go towards? If it's candy wrapped with slogans of freedom and democracy, and if by accepting that we forget our traditional values and culture and our duty to protect marriage, family, mothers and children, then we lose our position. We shirk from our responsibilities. What will be the end? That will be deprivation. Don't dismiss it because it's a minor evil. Don't turn away from it. The recent Jimmy Sham Chi Kin case shows that under the slogan of freedom and democracy, Hong Kong has been turned upside down. There was black-led violence in 2019. We saw these damning ideological ideas. Let's not forget the wounds inflicted on us. In this case, there was a valid marriage registered overseas. They come back to Hong Kong to undermine our established system, saying that the same status, the statutory status of the overseas registered marriage should be recognized. The court has taken a comprehensive view. I have something positive to say about this. Same-sex marriage registered overseas does not carry the same constitutional rights as heterosexual marriage in Hong Kong. The court talked about constitutional duties. In the same breath, they said that status should be granted to the marriage. The marriage should be recognized. I do not agree with the letter because that is the view of the minority. It's a panel of judges. Two are of the view that the civil marriage registration should be upheld, but 3 may have a different view. And it said that in 2 years, the administration should provide a clear plan to make changes. The court defer the judgment for a period of 2 years to give the administration time. 5 judges of the CFA agree that it should be decided by the legislature. The final say doesn't rest with the CFA. But at the same time, in effect, they say they have the final decision. So the constitutional order, the marriage ordinance, the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong should be provided. How do we deal with the CFA decision? If necessary, the legislature should substitute the judgment. I so submit.
Hon Junius HO.
I now propose a question to you that Dr. Junius HO's motion be passed. Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs. Deputy President, I thank Dr. Junius HO for moving this motion so that we can debate this topic. Before members speak, I'd like to emphasize and make it clear the government's position on the marriage system in Hong Kong. The government's stance on the marriage system has always been clear. We need to uphold the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong from the perspective of law. In accordance with the laws of Hong Kong, the marriage in Hong Kong is only confined to one man and one woman. In accordance with Section 40 of Cap 181, the Marriage Ordinance, the marriage rituals should be based on Christianity. That is, in law, the voluntary union for life of one man and one woman to the exclusion of all others. There are 4 criteria that must be met, including 1. Heterosexual, that is one man and one woman. 2. Voluntary union. 3. For life. And 4. To the exclusion of all others, that is monogamy. In other words, the marriage ordinance has clearly pointed out the basic criteria for a marriage, that is heterosexual, a marriage between one man and one woman. There is no doubt. In accordance with the marriage ordinance, the Director of Immigration is responsible for handling all marriage registration in accordance with the principles laid down, that is, the voluntary union for life of one man and one woman. In addition, the sanctity of marriage is confirmed by the law courts in Hong Kong. In the case of Sham Chi Kit, the Court of Final Appeal points out that the Basic Law and the Hong Kong Bill of Rights Ordinance only protect marriages between one man and one woman. Homosexual marriages are not included. The traditional marriage concept of one man and one woman is entrenched in the law. That is protected by the Basic Law, as well as the Bill of Rights. In accordance with the Civil Code of the PRC, Article 1041, that is monogamous marriage between one man and one woman. In 2019 and 2021, the PRC emphasized that the marriage in China is only confined to one man and one woman. The protection of marriages is only confined to heterosexual marriage. This shows the monogamous marriage system in Hong Kong. It provides the basis of the monogamous marriage system in Hong Kong. It also shows the traditional Chinese concept of family virtues between parents and children and among siblings. Respect must be shown. Recently, there have been judicial review judgments. There are worries that there may be impacts on the traditional marriage system. I must emphasize that the government will comply with the Basic Law, that is the monogamous marriage under the marriage ordinance. Different jurisdictions can develop laws based on the social situations as well as societal values in a society. So we'll take into account traditional values in society, and we will not easily make any amendments to the marriage ordinance. Deputy President, I will carefully listen to members before I make a concluding remark.
Ms. Maggie Chen. Thank you, President. I thank Dr. Junius HO for the motion. I'd like to take this opportunity to speak in support of this motion. I'd also like to take this opportunity to read out Section 21 of the Marriage Ordinance, which says that the registrar must read out the following content. According to the marriage, it is binding. Before you are joined in matrimony, it is my duty to remind you of the solemn and binding character of a marriage contracted under the Marriage Ordinance, which is in law the voluntary union for life of one man and one woman to the exclusion of all others. In the Chinese culture, we've always respected marriage between one man and one woman. This is the foundation of our family values, and this is also one important part of the Chinese culture, and is also an important element to ensure harmony of society. We have to respect this heterosexual marriage system between one man and one woman. This is to encourage family responsibilities and also provides a clear standard in relation to the ethics that people have to abide by. This helps build stable families, and this helps nurture correct values of our children. This will also help inject positive energy to our society. This also helps lay an important and stable foundation of the development of our society. Heterosexual marriage is an important component of the Chinese culture. The traditional Chinese culture emphasizes harmony and love between a man and a woman in a marriage. This has to do with positive family values. We have to uphold this system to inherit the spirit of the Chinese culture. I'm happy that the government took on board my views to hold family elections, and based on family values there were exchange activities held, and there was a task force set up on family values. The Home Affairs Department also set up a 5-year family education program. It is important to promote positive family values. We have to lead the public, and we have to educate the public on upholding this heterosexual marriage system so that we can build good family values and culture. This will help create harmony and stability. I have the following suggestions. First, the SAR government should hold the 2025 family election, and by holding this election there should be consensus among the community to promote good family values and culture. Secondly, the government should review the Family Council as well as the Women's Commission and enhance the promotion of good family values. This is to help implement measures on helping women and families. Thirdly, the government should encourage schools to hold talks and interest classes to promote the excellent traditional culture of the Chinese nation. This is to help improve parent-child relationship. There should also be education on constitution as well as the basic law as well as the national security law. This is to help reinforce family values and pass on the fine culture of the Chinese nation. Last year, I moved a motion that was passed in this council, that is to review the ordinance in relation to obscene articles. This is to prevent children from being adversely impacted by obscene articles. Here, I'd like to urge the SAR government to revise and amend that ordinance and come up with a legislative timetable. And through education, we should protect our children from obscene articles, and this also is to help promote good family values and culture. I would like to wish you all a good marriage and a good year ahead, as today is the Lantern Festival. Mr. Ambrose Lam, Hong Kong is a pluralistic metropolis. Everyone may have different values. Regardless of how different our values are, we have to maintain law and order. And in order to do this, we have to maintain rule of law. People may have different views on this motion debate or this topic. Regardless of the results of today's debate, I hope we can all remember that Hong Kong is a rule of law society. We exercise one country, two systems principle. And I have to talk about common law systems and the boundaries under this system so that the government can better reflect on what it should do under the common law system. Well, let me put it in a simple way about judges. There are 4 levels of judges. The first level is about customs. That means without customs, courts can, based on their own decisions, make rulings on cases. Secondly, authorities are crucial. Without authorities and legislations, courts again can make their own decisions. The third level is about provisions and enactments. Fourth is constitutions and the basic law. They override all other laws in Hong Kong. According to the basic law, we have the administrative branch as well as legislature as well as the executive as well as the judiciary. In the past, there were more discussions about the executive as well as the legislature. However, there are also balances and checks between the judicial system as well as the executive. This is to ensure democracy. We exercise judicial independence, and they make rulings on LGBTQ cases. And we also have customs law. Members of the public can, through the legislature, overturn the rulings of courts. We can also overturn the case authority. Hong Kong is a society with rule of law. We exercise judicial independence. We have to respect rulings of courts, especially rulings from the Court of Final Appeal. The duty of the court is to explain and execute laws. With judicial independence, courts consider legal principles. They do not take into consideration politics. This is the most precious value in Hong Kong. On the topic about heterosexual marriage, are we seeing a new standard? If there are conflicts between Western values as well as our customs law, what should we do? This is about politics as well as societal problems. If it is about politics and societal problems, they should be discussed in this council. We have representatives from different sectors in this council, and we represent the views of members of the public. We should discuss here today whether the government should formulate a new set of standards. If we see that there are loopholes in our current laws or legal systems, of course the Legislative Council could amend the laws. The common law system is to enable the Legislative Council to amend laws and we can also overturn rulings of courts. So this motion debate is very, very important. I hope members can all speak on this topic. Mr. Kenneth Leung. Thank you, Deputy President. I thank Dr. Hon Junius HO for this motion, which gives us an opportunity to talk about values that have a huge impact on our young people. We are highly influenced by the Chinese culture. Our idea about family has to do with our identity of the nation. In the 70s, there was the marriage system set up, and it reinforced the idea of marriage between one man and one woman. This also laid a foundation on harmony in society. However, traditional values have got different views nowadays. We have to ensure education about heterosexual marriage so that our young people have positive and healthy values and views. It is only then that they can make the right decisions. In order for our young people to have correct values about marriage and families, education is crucial. I think we can step up our efforts in the following areas. First, we have to enhance our family values education. From primary 1 to junior secondary level, students are educated. They receive civic education, for example, and we can educate them on families as well as communication. And this helps inculcate correct values to our students. We should also help promote correct family values and culture. We should have more support for single families' children. According to statistics, divorce rate or divorce cases increased by 102%, and from 2001, the single families numbers increased from 3.9% to 6.3% in 2021. For children from these families, we have to give more care to them, and we have to help them build correct family values as well as marriage values so that they have better sense of security, and this is also to ensure their healthy growth. I want to talk about opposite sex education in schools. According to the existing framework, sex education is one part of the education. It includes knowing better about yourself, protecting yourself, and respecting others. It seems like a comprehensive framework or curriculum. However, the teaching materials have not been updated, and teachers may not know how to teach these subjects. Take the civic education or citizenship subject as an example. There are 9 sessions under 3 modules, and at the senior secondary level, with the need to catch up with the curriculum, is hard for teachers to teach this subject. In 2016, there was mentioned that there was a lack of education in this regard. For the EOC, it suggested that there should be sex education at schools. I think that we have faced this issue for a long time, and the government should face up this issue squarely. We have to teach our young people about opposite sex and respect others. We should do this proactively so that young people have a good understanding about this. Otherwise, when they encounter difficulties, they may look for solutions online, and they may not be able to tell right from wrong. Deputy President, family is the foundation of our society. We have talked about top talents as well as other topics. All these have to do with families. I hope our young people can inherit the good tradition of the Chinese culture. At the same time, we should ensure that young people can have good and positive values about opposite sex, and this can ensure the healthy development of our young people as well as our society. I so submit. I speak in support of the motion. Mrs. Regina Yip.
Madam Deputy, I thank Dr. Junius HO for moving this motion on marriage. We have a chance for a civilized and rational discussion and debate. Last night, just like other members, I received a letter from someone important asking me to support Dr. Ho's motion. Well, it's going to be an election. We need to garner support from voters. But I'm afraid I can't support Dr. Ho's motion. The motion itself is flawed. Well, traditional Chinese culture on marriage is male, one man, one woman, as well as concubines. Back in those days, when the marriage ordinance after the reform was effective, that is 1970, the concubine system was abolished. Under common law, there is a civil marriage. A lot of people who are not married have the rights of a wife. Just now, Mr. Zhang, the secretary, has read out a number of provisions. In New China, when the CCP has taken power, they have made a lot of breakthroughs. So our traditional marriage culture is one with concubine. So marriage, monogamous and heterosexual marriage is something introduced by the CCP. In the marriage ordinance, Cap 181, the long title is
or the civil equivalent thereof, 就基督教婚禮或相等嘅世俗婚禮
Christian marriage or the civil equivalent of Christian marriage will be provided for. Someone told me that they like our way. Marriage registration officer reads out the oath, the vow, saying that it's to the exclusion of all others. Union for life of one man and a woman is a Judaism tradition. So monogamous marriage is not the traditional marriage culture. And in a lot of families in Hong Kong, they are not monogamous. Some people brag about being the mistress of someone, that they are wealthy. I condemn the media for reporting widely on this, because this is not the right value. These mistresses ruin other people's marriages and families, and they just want to gloat and brag about the wealth. This is not right. And there are people who don't have just one wife, not so much when it comes to more than one husband. But do we give them a differential treatment? So this is not a matter that is in black and white. The motion talked about prevent and resist impact of harmful culture. What is it? I'm a woman. I strongly oppose to extramarital relationship. If someone in my party has engaged in something like that, I will strongly oppose to that. So prevent and resist what? Well, Mr. Lam Sang Keung has already made it very clear that there is a clear judgment in MKV Hong Kong SAR government. The appeals court has said that Basic Law Article 37 does not include same-sex marriages. In the Shamzi Kid case, the judge has made it clear that the government should come up with an alternative framework so as not to discriminate against same-sex relationship. The framework should provide the same rights of same-sex marriages, so that is to the exclusion of others. Your time is up. Mr. Stanley Ng. Madam Deputy, I speak on behalf of the FTU in support of Dr. Junius Ho's motion. I am glad to hear that the government's stance on recognizing monogamous and heterosexual marriage. There is a necessity to uphold the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. It's not based on some simple law of nature or superiority of morality. It is based on societal equality, procreation, and a number of complicated factors. The core value of this system is that through stability, the order of society and humanity is preserved. It's the foundation of our society. In modern days, there are a lot of complications and ideas that undermine different traditional ideas. We need to promote equal development in a society. The monogamous and heterosexual marriage system is practiced for a long time through practice and evidence. Is the result of a civilized society. In a lot of countries, the laws have been changed to recognize same-sex marriage or transgender marriage. The mainstream idea is one that advocates monogamous and heterosexual marriage. We need to strongly uphold the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. I must say that we respect an inclusive as a diversified society. But breaking this monogamous and heterosexual marriage system does not mean that we do not advocate diversity. We need to respect the choice of nature. We need to be responsible. We should not simplify complicated issues. We should not create conflicts. When we look at societal progress, a monogamous and heterosexual marriage has been the mainstream system. Family is the basic unit. There is explicit relationship in a monogamous marriage. There is a clear-cut familial structure. There is division of labor. You respect your elders. You rear your children. It reduces a risk of conflict when people fight for estates. Some people think that families with both parents present provide a stable environment for children. It will reduce the possibility of health and mental issues. This is a simple system that will not have a negative impact on children. We need to tackle the challenge of a shrinking population. A monogamous and heterosexual marriage encourages a procreation. This will maintain population balance. So upholding the current system does not mean discrimination against other relationships and marriages. We need to uphold the mainstream values. That's the most humane way. In the U.S., there is the NED, and a number of organizations are funding LGBTQ campaign. Lots of funding. Please stop speaking. Your time is up. Mr. Hon Chow. First of all, I thank Dr. Junius HO for moving this motion. I support the motion. I was going to move an amendment, but I apologize that my team has missed the deadline. That's why I don't have an amendment for discussion. In any event, I have prepared my speech. I want to express some points to draw your attention. Since I became a legislator, I've been fighting for the marriage system and the family system. On a number of occasions, I have said that DAB and myself respect different sexual orientations. There is no discrimination whatsoever. Same-sex relations is a matter of the people involved. But when it comes to changing the heterosexual marriage system or anything that promotes legalization of same-sex marriage, there is a chance that our traditional values will be undermined. Then it's not a matter between two people in a relationship. It's about everyone in society. That's why I cherish the chance to have a discussion here, because it affects the entire society. Unfortunately, we have a number of cases that challenges a heterosexual marriage system. The government has lost a spate of them. This makes me realize that there is a misunderstanding in our society. The Secretary has clarified that the only valid marriage system is monogamous and heterosexual marriage. But because of the series of cases, people start to have a wrong idea that we don't have the marriage system that is monogamous and heterosexual. If we talk about legalization of same-sex marriage, then there will be a lot more problems. What will the textbook say? Two dads, two moms, and the adopted child. Then the family is not just a mom, a dad, and a child. It can be two dads or two moms. This has undermined our traditional value. Some may say that monogamous and heterosexual marriage is a given. It needs no explaining, but that is not necessary. Your mom may not be a woman, so we need to make it clear. There was only one line in my amendment, which is to enhance publicity and public education that monogamous and heterosexual marriage is the only valid marriage in Hong Kong. I wanted to add this line because I want to enhance public education to set out the importance of a marriage system of monogamous and heterosexual marriage. In a lot of places, they've challenged this system. And some countries have made changes to legalize same-sex marriage. But in these places, there has been controversies. Some of them have gone back. In the U.S., Donald Trump has responded to public views and started to advocate for heterosexual marriage. Some people talked about celebrating or witnessing a marriage if it is no longer heterosexual, if it's same-sex. If someone is asked to be a witness of same-sex marriage, can that person turn it down because of religious reasons? And there was a case in the U.S. There was a huge controversy based on religious freedom. The person did not want to be involved because of religious reasons, and then that person got into trouble. I asked you to support the motion. I so submit.
Mr. Tony Te. Thank you, President. Mr. Donald Trump, President of the U.S., his diplomatic policies are subject to criticisms, but I agree with him on one point. That is, he upholds the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. This is common sense. This is common knowledge. However, some people forget it. It confuses some people. As a result, some countries or some regions see morals being affected, being impacted on. Some people think that upholding the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system means discrimination against or suppression against liberty in relation to homosexuality or human rights. We must understand, while we uphold human rights, we need to ensure other people's liberty will not be affected. We must respect customary practice and correct social values. I respect mature adults have different choices in relation to their life, but it does not mean for the majority of the people or the government needs to confirm or recognize values which the public think are at odds with common sense or common ethics. In some countries, some parents cannot call themselves parents. Some have to identify them as parents who have no explicit gender. So, what kind of impact will children have to suffer? In some lawsuits in relation to public welfare and benefits, the government lost in a spate of cases. I'm not a legal expert. I don't know the reasons behind it. I don't know the solutions either, but I can tell for sure that this will impact on the traditional values and ethics. The government needs to work on values education. The government cannot simply say that we respect the court and we respect personal liberty without doing anything else. When it comes to ethics education, it should be implemented not just in primary schools but also at universities. Promotion in relation to correct ethics and values means that we should not promote such values. There is no conflict with the protection of academic freedom and freedom of speech. The government needs to take the initiative to uphold the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. We need to protect the traditional values and promote them. We need to openly promote these values. We need to do so on a regular basis. We shouldn't avoid doing so, afraid that we might offend a minority of people in society. I so submit I support Dr. Junius HO's motion. Thank you, President. Mr. Scott Leung. Thank you, President. In Hong Kong, we have been having a monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. It is not just a cornerstone of society. It has a lot to do with social policies, for example, social benefits. The government needs to uphold the system in order to avoid any impact on social policies. Recently, there are 3 cases in relation to housing rights as well as housing ownership rights or estate. In these cases, the Court of Final Appeal ruled against the government. the courts ruled in favor of the same-sex couples. This attracts public concerns. Social policies are based on heterosexual marriage in Hong Kong. Public housing is precious resources. It takes on average 5.5 years to wait for public housing. A lot of people in Hong Kong wait for a long time before they can get a public rental flat. If we relax the eligibility criteria, will more families be covered, which in turn leads to an even longer wait? This will lead to an increase in the time of the wait for public housing. There will even be more acute competition for public housing. This will affect the benefits of some people in Hong Kong, and this will also impact on the planning of the government in relation to public housing. The cases I mentioned focused on some areas in relation to social policies, but then it would cause an impact on the overall public housing policies in Hong Kong. I hope the government will review the impact of the cases on public housing, and the government should also look into the eligibility criteria for application for public housing in order to make sure that public resources are distributed in a fair manner. A monogamous and heterosexual marriage system is commonly accepted. We need to uphold it. According to the CNSD, over 80% of the families in Hong Kong have this traditional family structure, and they have the responsibility for procreation and caring for the elderly. If we make any changes to the marriage system, this will impact on the stability of society, say in public housing policies. Traditional marriage system will help the government project and plan the future demand for public housing. Otherwise, distribution of resources will lose balance. If we widen the definition of marriage, public resources, say education, tax, and housing, will also be affected as a result. So this not only has to do with the distribution of social resources, it also has to do with the passing down of social values. I have to emphasize, upholding the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system doesn't mean discrimination against other sexual orientations. There are ordinances protecting people of other sexual orientations. The judgments of the Court of Final Appeal emphasizes the importance of respecting other people's freedom and rights, but we shouldn't be kidnapped, so to speak, by a minority of the views and values in Hong Kong. A traditional marriage system is a cornerstone of the stability and the sustainable development of Hong Kong. While we aim to maintain an inclusive society, we must pull out all the stops in protecting the traditional marriage system in Hong Kong. We must protect the traditional system. I speak in support of the original motion. Thank you, President. Dr. Dick Chi-Yuen. I'd like to share some of my views in relation to Dr. Junius Ho's motion. Marriage systems are the result of human civilization. In history, heterosexual marriage system based on monogamy provide the stable development of a society. It not only highlights the loyalty as well as the promise of human beings, it also paves way for the environment for our offspring. Marriage systems have rich human and cultural contents. It's not just a legal system, it is also a cultural system. It has the wisdom of our ancestors. The basic law protects this marriage system. It recognizes this system. On the basis of this marriage system, we need to think how we can allow this marriage system to continue to perform its function. A marriage system helps with passing the traditional values as well as the stability of a society. It is not just a way of life for people. It shows special values and carries special meaning. As a religious person, I share the importance of a traditional marriage system. This system will help instill a correct set of values into our offspring. It is an important element in maintaining the social development in Hong Kong. There are a lot of challenges and contentious issues in society. I believe rational discussions are the key to solving problems and issues in society. All of us can pursue our own way of life. In society, there should be sufficient wisdom and freedom to accommodate different views. In a discussion of marriage systems, we need to consider the following factors. 1. How to strengthen family education to help offspring grasp the correct values of families. 2. How to provide more support for young people so that more people can have a happy family. 3. How to ensure the continuity of the marriage system. In a marriage, couples need to support one another. We need to promote these values. We need to stay inclusive. We need to be accommodating so that everyone can pursue their own life. The Constitution and the Basic Law respect the traditional values of marriage systems. On this basis, we need to think how this system will achieve its greatest function in society. While we are doing our best to preserve traditional values, we need to move with the times. In 2023, there was a relevant judgment of the Court of Final Appeal. The government needs to follow up on it in order to honor the spirit of the rule of law. We need to focus on how to promote and foster social well-being. We need to be accommodating. We need to accommodate differences while seeking common ground. Let us work together to uphold and safeguard traditional values. Let us stay inclusive to build an even better Hong Kong. President, I so submit. I speak in support of the motion.
Mr. Kingsley Wong. Thank you, President. I speak in support of Dr. Junius HO's motion on upholding the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. Everyone should have the right and freedom they're entitled to. However, there should be limits to this freedom under the premise that enjoying this freedom would not harm others. According to the Basic Law, we should have the freedom of marriage, and according to the Constitution, marriage and family should be protected by the state, and there should be heterosexual marriage. Section 181 of the Hong Kong law also stipulates that our marriage system is one between man and woman. In Leung Chun Kong's case, the CFA ruled that this has to do with the fundamental values, and it's only with consensus that we can change the system. According to 2022 Family Council survey, 70% of the respondents agreed that monogamous and heterosexual marriage is the ideal type of marriage. This shows that this is stipulated under the law and also agreed by the majority of people in Hong Kong. Marriage is the foundation for procreation, and this also helps to ensure balances in mental health. Heterosexual marriage is a core value. It also helps nurture values about loyalty and ethics. And heterosexual marriage is also one important way to pass on the important values of the Chinese culture. President, the special thing about Hong Kong is that we are open and diverse. At the same time, we don't exceed the bottom line of our laws, and we have to strike a balance between Chinese and Western values. We can respect different people's way of lives as well as orientation. However, the mainstreamed values, particularly the values stipulated in the basic law, that is the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system, should be upheld. I speak in support of the government's stance. I so submit. Thank you. Ms. Eunice Yong. I thank Dr. Hon Junius HO for the motion on the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. I understand that Dr. Ho put forward this motion and mentioned 3 areas. It's about how we can uphold the system and how we can promote the excellent culture of the Chinese nation and how we can prevent the impact of harmful culture. However, if you put all these 3 concepts together, it might give people the impression that upholding the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system equals to promoting the excellent culture of the Chinese nation. I looked up the law about promoting family education in the mainland, and I tried to look at the definition of promoting the excellent culture of the Chinese nation. It's about respect. A lot of members talked about family building, family education, and family values and how we can promote these concepts. In Hong Kong, we have been promoting family values. In China, we have the Appendix as well as different literatures, classic literature, and all these literature talks about family education and family values. And the values are about respecting your parents, respecting your siblings and other family members. You have to also abide by the laws according to these values. These are the virtues of the Chinese culture. When I think about the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system, I think about whether this is all the Chinese culture is about. Many members have spoken on this topic, and I don't think this marriage system can represent the Chinese culture. Before 1969, men in China had the right to have more than one wife and concubines. The government in 1969 established the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system, and it was only then that we have been upholding this system. So in Hong Kong, it is the same. We have only had this system since 1969. And this monogamous and heterosexual marriage system has provided stability and harmony to a lot of couples in Hong Kong. The monogamous and heterosexual marriage is the mainstream value, and this system is upheld by majority of people in Hong Kong. As to how we should uphold the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system, I think we should uphold this system because it is in our law. Like Mrs. Yip said, on extramarital affairs, on how the media report about this topic, it has to do with the 3rd part of Dr. Ho's motion, that is how we can prevent the impact of harmful culture. We should make good use of schools, our community efforts, as well as media to promote good marriage values so that we can let our young people understand the spirit of a good marriage and a harmonious family relationship. However, I have a doubt. I cannot make a connection between traditional Chinese culture and the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. I do, however, support the heterosexual marriage system. I also agree that we should promote the excellent traditional culture of the Chinese nation. I also think that we should think about how we can prevent and resist the impact of harmful culture. I hope that through this motion, well, it is not the first time we discussed this topic here. In 2018, we also had a discussion about the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. However, we have to think about how we can link this up with promoting the excellent traditional culture of China. Thank you. Mr. Peter Xu. Thank you, President. I thank Dr. Junius HO for moving this motion. In recent years, There have been controversies about the rights of homosexual people. There have also been discussions about the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. There have been concerns. I, as well as other members of this council, like Dr. Junius HO and Professor Priscilla Leung, have been listening to people's concerns about some new culture, that is, the homosexual culture or relationship between transgender people. There are concerns whether people would have misunderstanding because of the court's ruling. People are concerned about their children. The Liberal Party supports the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. For people who are homosexual, regarding their sexual orientation, I think we should accept them. They are adults. They have their own choice. Well, some people say that people could be born to be homosexual. It could be because of their DNA that people are born to be homosexual. However, I think that this could be reasons other than genes. I was told by a friend that there was a boy who got bullied all the time at school, and a student more senior than this boy protected this boy and gave this boy snacks. Over time, this boy had become very close to this senior student, and this senior student always waited for this boy outside his classroom. I'm not talking about a recent case. I'm talking about many years ago, and that boy in the end got transferred to another school and did not see that senior student again. And the boy grew up and he started dating girls. The first time he fell in love, he got very nervous, and that feeling was the same as that when he met that senior student who was also a boy. If it was not because the boy got separated from the senior student, he might have become a homosexual or a gay person. But that boy ended up getting married with a woman after he grew up. So, could people be born to be homosexual? Could this be congenital? I think we have to explain to people clearly that under our law, we uphold the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. Different places have different laws and systems. In the new Chinese nation, the system was revised after 1969, and we've seen harmony under this new system. I've heard some people say that they read from the fairy tale that nowadays that children might learn or might be exposed to homosexual culture when they read books or children's stories. So we have to educate people on the right values. Thank you.
Ms. Doreen Kong, I thank Dr. Junius HO for moving the motion so that we can have a chance to have a discussion on this topic. Modern laws and traditional cultures protect monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. This is one of the necessary conditions for our society to continue to function. But there is this reality. Sexual minorities exist in our community. They are part of our society. They will not disappear simply because they are not recognized by our traditional culture or system. I would like to provide my views from the perspective of law. Traditional marriage system under the law is to recognize the status and framework of a family unit. Say, for example, custody, estate, inheritance. There is a need because of an agricultural society. However, modern laws will have to reflect the reality of a society that is diversified. Without infringing upon the rights of others, the rights of minorities should be protected. This is a display of the spirit of the rule of law in Hong Kong. Sexual minorities, before they are stigmatized, they are a human being. So these labels and stigmatizations should come after, if any, their status of being a human being. Well, when it comes to housing rights, well, some people say that the rights of singletons should be respected. When it comes to public housing application, a family of 3 will be given priority. Elderly singleton will get priority when they reach the age of 58. So the housing needs of singletons has been suppressed. And of these singletons, there is a certain number of people who are of a sexual minority. They may not be given valid marriage status, but they need to be protected. In 2024, the CFA passed judgments on the 2 cases in relation of the right to public housing from same-sex relationship. But for member of the public, if they have to wait for the court to make a decision in order to get the housing needs met, the cost is too much. I think it's about how the law manages public expectation and a balance between that and societal development. In comparative law, well, custody rights and marriage rights are alienated. There are also breakthroughs in systems. With these new initiatives, there can be progressive equality. When it comes to controversial issues, the government needs to understand the different situations of different groups. They need to provide better policies to protect rights of different groups. This is not just about upending traditional values. It's to include these different groups under the framework of the law. That is the resilience of our system. I so submit. Mr. Michael Look. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Junius HO for moving this motion of upholding the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. I think that this stimulates discussions and thinking. Well, I practice the system mentioned in the motion. I support the direction of the motion. But it doesn't mean that society should exclude sexual minorities, and people with different sexual orientations. Some people think that these two ideas are on the opposite end of a spectrum. But I'd like to talk about upholding our traditional family unit as well as this monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. Well, in a capitalist system, interpersonal relationship is highly differentiated. What does that mean? It means that interpersonal relationship does not build solely on how they think about each other or the admiration of their talents. It's more based on whether the other party has money, whether the other person can help elevate my social status or improve my life. So relationships, the essence of a relationship has changed when people think about whether to get married. It's not about whether they want to spend the rest of their lives with the other person. It's about the background, the wealth of the other person, whether there will be a grand wedding in the aisle, down in the aisle. And there are lots of people promoting this market value of a relationship. And this undermines the traditional value of a traditional family. So when it comes to family education, I think it's not just educating parents on how they should bring up their children. The education should start from teenagers about values on relationship and on marriage, to give them the correct values, to give them guidance. I think that's more important. The labor sector always complains about low wages and long working hours. There is no place for them to meet their basic needs. They don't have time to date or to have children, and this also negatively affects family values and our marriage system. They don't have the time or the cost or the money to get married. They don't have the money to bring up a children. It's not about the choice of the gender of the person you're going to get married. They simply don't have the choice. That's why the FTU advocates that when it comes to the future of the young people, there should be a youth savings plan. They need to have assistance to plan for their future. They don't have to wait for 10 years to get a public housing estate. When it comes to getting a home ownership flat, they may not get lucky. But they need to be given a chance to save under the scheme so that they can have the money to buy a place to build a home. Yet the discussion of the motion is meaningful. But if we support a monogamous and a heterosexual family, then we need to consider the structure and relationship of our society and our economy. Don't just think that this will undermine, something will undermine the system. We need to think about how to create a family-friendly environment. Ms. Carmen Can, I support the motion. It talks about promoting the excellent Chinese culture and to prevent and resist the harmful impact of bad culture. Well, we're not talking about LGBTQ. Let's look at marriage when it comes to traditional value. Presidency has given in some indications, and there should be promotion of guidance in the marriage, relevant values, and the establishment of families and the forging of the correct values. Yes, monogamous and heterosexual marriage is the core value of our country. It should be actively promoted. The Constitution and the Basic Law are the constitutional foundations in Hong Kong, and the Constitution states that families and marriage are protected by the state. When it comes to the spirit of the principle of marriage, it should be in line of the PRC Constitution. The marriage ordinance in Hong Kong also states that it is a voluntary union for life of one woman and one man to the exclusion of all others. In 2023, there was the Shamji Kid case. The CFA's judgments state that under Article 37 as 37 of the Basic Law, as well as 19 of the BORO, human rights should be protected. Yes, there was a decision of 2-3 in the CFA, and that and a decision that the government should come up with an alternative framework. But it doesn't mean that same-sex partners should get the same status as those in a heterosexual marriage. And these are my observations in relation to the CFA case. The Chief Justice said that he did not have the It does not say that there is an infringement upon private lives under Article 14 of BORO. My understanding of the article is that private lives should not be interfered with or infringed upon without a justification. I think the main point is that same-sex partners should not be discriminated against. Their private life should be respected. The CJ imposes a duty on the government to come up with an alternative framework, but doesn't it go against Article 14 of BORO? The court said that before October 2025, there should be an alternative framework. The CFA's decision is suspended. The court may ask for an extension. The court identifies that flexibility should be given to the government. It shows that the court fully realized the complexity of the case. Within a very short time, it's difficult to get consensus from stakeholders. When it comes to issues relating to LGBTQ in the US and European communities, the support swings back and forth. Donald Trump says that a marriage should involve just a man and a woman. Before we have consensus, I suggest to the administration that before they come up with an alternative framework, there should be full consultation. The concern of Justice Johnson Lam should not be realized. We have the traditional culture of monogamous and heterosexual marriage. Well, we need to respect that system, and the issues arisen should be resolved by different parties. I support the motion.
Professor Priscilla Leung. I speak in support of Dr. Junius HO's motion. Some members asked why we still have to be talking about the upholding of the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. Well, members know that if we do not make it clear that we uphold the system, it is possible that the foundation of it will be shaken, or it will even collapse. I'd like to talk about LGBTQ. That is a diversity of genders. There was a heated debate in 2014 because of the case of W. We needed to amend the marriage ordinance, that is in relation to the registration of transsexuals. 40 against, 11 in favor, 5 abstain. Mr. Chen Chi-chun, in 2018, he moved a motion and he asked for equal rights for same-sex couples. they championed civil union. And I made an amendment of upholding the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system, as well as the children's rights that are protected under the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. There was great controversy. Trump 2.0, so to speak. People believe there was a highlight. Why Marxists pointed out so clearly that the resources devoted to the diversity of genders need to be taken back because he was a victim. His son underwent transsexual operations or surgeries to a father. That is heartbreaking. If we do not uphold the system, what would happen? When I had a talk in Canada, I still remember that my friend told me not to promote monogamous and heterosexual marriage system. You should champion the opposite, or you should talk about the opposite. Now, a male who hasn't yet undergone transsexual surgery can also go to a female's toilet. This is a news article in 2018, and in 2020, it yet again appears in Times Magazine. 40-odd secondary schools in the UK were worried that some students were not sure about their gender. So all female students shouldn't wear dresses. I'd say these are labels. There is reverse discrimination. It's appeared in Hong Kong. It's a pluralistic society. There are homosexuals in Hong Kong. Some of my friends are homosexuals as well. We don't have to say whether someone has extramarital affairs or what your sexual orientation is. You don't really have to come out. Some people said that they had to change the marriage system. There was a ruling 2-3. The Hong Kong government lost the case. There wasn't sufficient and in-depth elaboration of arguments, and he wasn't able to tell the difference between civil union and traditional marriage, and this will lead to great misunderstanding in the public. The Legislative Council well, if there are 40-odd bills waiting for scrutiny, do we really need to deal with this contentious bill? In 50 years' time, in 100 years' time, there won't be any resolution of this issue. Do we really need to handle this bill right now? Our efforts will only go to waste. Do we need to formulate another piece of legislation? 3 powers. There are checks and balances. Do we need to make laws that haven't been sufficiently deliberated in society? Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak? Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs. President, once again, I thank Dr. Junius HO for moving the motion of upholding the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. I thank members for speaking on this issue. I've carefully heard members for their views. I've heard the concerns expressed by members, and I will reply to these concerns. I must emphasize that the government has always had the same stance on marriage in Hong Kong. The basic law upholds the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong. We must use this marriage system as the foundation. Any policy shouldn't deviate from this system. From the perspective of policies, the government attaches a lot of importance to families. This is very important. We have always been championing the rights of families. We protect family values. After marriage, whether couples maintain their families, they protect their families. So we need to protect family values. Some members suggested that the government should step up publicity and uphold the monogamous and heterosexual marriage system in Hong Kong, which should be made the only system in Hong Kong. I go along with this view. I will work with the HYAB and the Family Council on stepping up promotion in this regard. Meanwhile, the government understands that Hong Kong is a free, open, and inclusive society. We respect and accommodate people who have different sexual orientations. We aim to build a harmonious, inclusive, and respectful society. In Sham Tse Kit versus Secretary for Justice case, we emphasize once again the Court of Final Appeal pointed out unanimously the rights and the constitutional rights under the marriage system in the Constitution and Basic Law. This only applies to monogamous and heterosexual marriage in Hong Kong. Despite alternative framework that recognizes same-sex couples relationships, it is clearly pointed out that the rights conferred upon same-sex couples do not mean marriage. What rights and obligations should be included? The government has flexibility in making these decisions. The government respects the decision of the Court of Final Appeal. The government is working hard on the work. We'll consult the Legislative Council afterwards. Overall, the government once again emphasizes and reiterates that the Basic Law confirms that the marriage system in Hong Kong is monogamous and heterosexual. This is the right conferred by the Basic Law. The government will study in detail members' views. The government will consult the council while confirming the details. I so submit.
I now put the question to you. That is that Dr. Junius Ho's motion be passed. Dr. Junius Ho asked for division. The division bell will ring for 5 minutes.
開始表決。
Voting begins. Ms. Lam So-Wai, do you intend to vote? Please check your votes. If there are no questions, voting stops. Result displayed. From Election Committee, 36 present, 29 for, 7 abstention. From Geographical Constituencies and Functional Constituencies, 44 present, 40 for, 3 abstention. I think the question is agreed by majority of each of the 2 groups of members present. I declare the motion passed.
研究附屬法例嘅報告。
Motion to take